I love love. In fact, I'm obsessed with love. I've written books about it. I've hosted podcasts about it. I went and got a master's in psychology so I would know what I was talking about. And now I am officially a relationship expert. So I'm here today to answer all of your burning questions about anything love and romance. Let's get to it.
Hey, my fiance and I are getting married in a few months, and I was wondering, how does money work when we get married? Do we move all of our cash into the same account, or do we just stop sending each other Venmo requests? Thanks. Bye.
So this is a great question. If you're getting married, I think it's really important to sit down and decide, are we going to view our finances as shared or separate? So if you're having shared finances, it can often just be a mindset, right? What's mine is yours, and you don't necessarily have to actually combine all of your investments in your accounts. But if you want to keep your accounts separate, then that's a really important conversation to have. So I would recommend maybe talking to a financial advisor if you're able to, and figuring out what is our strategy here? How are we going to divide expenses? Because a lot of people have a lot of different triggers and trauma around money. So you just want to make sure that you're marrying someone who will agree to what makes you feel safe and protected. All right, money out of the way. Next one.
Hi, Allison. This is Johnny. I've been married for 5 years now, and I honestly feel like my wife does not really enjoy spending time alone anymore. She's great when there's other people around. We've got 2 kids, and they're great. But I feel like when the 2 of us are together, it's just not that fun anymore. What do you have to say about that?
My mind goes 2 places. One is I wonder if she ever has time to recharge, because a lot of times we can feel like our relationship is suffering, but it's simply because one or both partners does not have the capacity to put energy into the relationship because all of their energy is being sucked up by work and family and childcare. The other thing I would say, if you're like, no, actually, my wife gets to relax all of the time and she just never wants to hang out with me, I would get really curious about that. And I think you probably need to have some sort of direct conversation. And the thing about disconnection is that it's inevitable. We're often taught that if suddenly things feel off with our partner, then oh God, we're heading to divorce court. But in reality, that's just a normal part of a long-term relationship. And what you just need to do is address it and acknowledge it. My question to you, Johnny, is do you ever take the load off for your wife? I think a lot of times we're well, how do I spark up our relationship? And it's oh, I should bring home flowers. But really it's you should make the kids dinner. Because if you make the kids dinner, then she will have time to rest and recharge, and then she's more likely to want to engage in a fun conversation with you, or watch your favorite TV show. Okay, time for our next one.
Hi, I've been with my new girlfriend for almost 2 months now, and their Instagram still has a ton of pictures of their ex. Is it appropriate to ask them to delete the photos, or should I just kind of live with it?
So this one is the answer I know I should give, and then also what I would do, right? I would want to ask them to delete the photos, but I have had to learn the hard way that everyone's relationship to social media and their exes is totally different. So if this person has had many exes and deleted every single one other than this one person, and they still seem to have some weird attachment to this person, then get curious, ask a little bit more. But if this is someone who's just never deleted an Instagram post, that there's someone who just they're this is the living document of my life, and you realize it's more just the philosophy of how they navigate their social media rather than something to deal with their ex, then I think you gotta let it go. The more confident that you feel in your relationship, the less those photos will matter to you. Let's keep it rolling.
Hi, Allison. So I've got a question. I'm engaged, and my fiance is very reluctant to go to couples therapy. We don't have any huge issues, but I just think it's important to have a place to talk through things and work on stuff, and my fiance is really not into it. To me, that's kind of troublesome, but I don't know if it's fair for me to insist or draw a hard line. So wondering if you have thoughts on that.
The wonderful thing about couples therapy is that it works the best when things are going well, right? Because if you go into couples therapy, when you already have issues, you're going to have your defenses up. You're going to already feel oh, I have to share my innermost thoughts and vulnerabilities with this person that's hurting me or causing me pain. Whereas when you go into couples therapy, when you're in love and planning on getting married and in a good place, then it's like, it feels so much safer to do the work and to be that vulnerable and open. So my advice is to say it would make me feel much more comfortable and safe entering into this marriage. And if the person is still like, no, you really have to think about that. Do I legally want to bind myself to someone that is not going to be flexible at all when I share my needs? All right, let's keep going.
Hi, Allison. I was wondering if you could talk about when you have OCD and sometimes you go through challenges that really trigger it to where you find that you're unable to really grasp on your coping skills. What is a way that you can communicate to your partner about what you're going through? And two, how can you show yourself grace to the point that, you don't make yourself feel like you failed as a partner or that you won't be able to be tolerated long term because you maybe reacted to a situation in a way that you consider to be nightmarish? That's at least how I describe myself. Thank you so much.
Wow, hard relate to this question. I've had OCD since I was 4 years old, and I mostly struggle with contamination OCD. So that obviously is not very fun for my husband, especially when we travel. But something I've learned over the years is I used to just get really upset if someone didn't follow my rules, which, let's be honest, make no logical sense at all because it's mental illness. So it would be like, how dare you put that there? Or like, what are you thinking? That's gross. And like, that's just like kind of rude, right? It's just like sort of me calling out my husband as like being gross, but like he's just operating kind of as a neurotypical regular person in the world. And so something that I really had to learn was how to communicate the distress that my OCD causes me. And to help him understand that, like, in those moments, I know that I'm not being logical, I know that I'm not making sense to him, but that I am in such emotional distress that if he cares about me, then he would want to help, right? The more that they know that this is like a real thing, I think the easier it can be for them to like tap into their understanding in those moments rather than their judgment. So just kind of reframing how we think about OCD and mental illness in general, I think can really change the way that you guys deal with it in a relationship. Okay, next question.
Hi, Allison. My name is Charlie. My question is about how do you go about negotiating if you have a change of heart about wanting to have kids? Like you said one thing before you got married, but now maybe you feel a different way about it. Thank you.
This is a tough one, but I think a lot of people probably deal with this because people change, right? I mean, we are marrying the person they are today, but we have no idea who they're going to be tomorrow or 6 months from now or 2 months from now. If something happens where maybe you went into the marriage saying, I really want kids, and then circumstances change, the world's on fire, financial situations change, and you're like, actually, I don't, that's a totally valid thing to say. You are allowed to change your mind, but your partner is also allowed to say, well, I do, and therefore I think this doesn't make sense for us anymore. So this idea of marriage being something that we are trapped into, or that we were trapped into whatever we first said when we got married, I think can really cause a lot of unhealthy relationships. And instead, it's kind of better to allow for your evolution, allow for yourself to grow and change, and then to check in with each other and say, does this still work for us? Are we changing in the same ways? Are we still working as a couple? And if not, then that's a tough conversation, but ultimately, both people deserve to have the life and lifestyle that they want. Okay, another one.
Hi, Allison. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I was wondering if you had any examples of unconventional marriage structures or marriage structures that you think could work. I'm someone who is very skeptical of the institution of marriage and would be interested in seeing what kind of other partnership models or agreements within marriage are possible.
I'll start off by saying you don't have to get married. That's what's like really exciting about today's society is it's no longer the social necessity that it used to be. You can have a partner, you can have kids, you can have a full life and never be married. And no one's going to be like, oh my God, can you believe that? I mean, maybe your grandma, but like a lot of Western society will be okay with that. What you do once you're married is totally up to you. What I would ask you is, why are you curious about this thing that you don't like, right? Like what is still intriguing to you about it? What makes you think that like maybe there is a part of me that does want it? Because then that's the marriage part that you take. That's the part that you dive into and that you shape and that you know, maybe it does mean a different level of connection and intimacy to you, even though you think it shouldn't. There's so much cultural, religious, emotional symbolism attached to marriage is kind of hard to escape, especially heterosexual couples. So being really mindful of that and being like, I don't want, once we get married, for me, the woman, to be doing more domestic labor than you, the man. And to like have that direct conversation. Okay, I think we have one more question. I hope I know how to answer it.
Hey, Allison, how do you know when it's time to end the relationship? I feel like I know it's not going to improve. Like, I think that the reasons that I'm dissatisfied are reasons due to, like, their personality. But on the other hand, I have a lot of patience for the way they are because I have a very similar personality. Okay, thanks, Allison.
I think that this question really gets at the heart of something which is very interesting, which is potential. Both the potential of your partner and the potential of your relationship. And while potential is a beautiful thing, it is also a very dangerous thing. So I always really advise people to say, would you be okay if this person and this relationship stayed exactly the same as it is right now? Is that a life you want to sign up for? Are you happy with them enough as who they are today that if they're that person when they're 80, you're like, cool. If you're like, no, I'm here because I can see who they could become, they might not ever get there, you know? Like, the ability to reach our full potential is something that might not happen for all of us due to a variety of reasons. And if you're looking at your relationship today and saying, this isn't what I want, that's your answer. If I could leave you with one final piece of advice about relationships, it's that how wonderful is it for someone to choose to spend their life with you? That's baseline. That's so exciting and wonderful. And so coming into everything from that point of view of like, wow, this is my teammate, this is my partner, it's us against the world, rather than I must win, can be really helpful. I could talk about this stuff all day. Hopefully that was helpful. And if you want to learn more about my thoughts on modern relationships, you can check out my new audiobook, I think, Conversations About Modern Marriage, available now on Audible.